Math books put away, pencil, and the paper you are currently receiving may be on your desk. Your name may go on it. Besides that, I don't want you to start writing anything until you receive instructions.
Your name goes where it says estimator's name.
Ooh, estimator's name. You are that. All right, boys and girls. Aaliyah's dad was very kind to come and talk to you and share some things about his work today. You know that some things he does at work every day relate a lot to what we're learning about in math with area and perimeter. You need to give your full attention and show me that you enjoy and deserve guests. And we thank him very much for coming in. Right? Be a good audience, please. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
Good.
As you'll see on your sheet, you are going to be roofing estimators for the next few minutes. So I've left a spot on the top of the sheet for you to put your name under estimator's name. I also want you to make up the name of a customer. Let's say you're going to meet Mr. Jones, or pick the name of one of your neighbors maybe. So we'll put a customer's name on there. And then I also want you to maybe come up with the name of your roofing company. So there's a spot on top for you to come up with the name of your company. So the company that I work for is called Security Roofing. So that's what I would write on the top of there. Now some of you maybe had seen me talk about what I do at Career Day last year. Did anybody see that? Excellent. Well, I'm not going to talk too much about what I do because I think I'm going to be back here for Career Day again. But what I am going to talk about is how surface area and perimeter measurements are applied in roofing. Now, that's what we're learning about, correct? We're learning about how to calculate the area of something. Is that right? And that works for things like floors and boxes and roofs. So, as many of you know, I'm Aaliyah's dad. And I promised her today that I wasn't going to do anything that embarrassed her. That's one of my favorite pictures of her eating SpaghettiOs. There's also her with her Elmo slippers. And her ballerina outfits. Well, I am done embarrassing you now. Probably. So, when people look at homes, this is what they see. They see kind of, from the walking by. But roofers look at roofs a lot differently because we don't care about your windows and your garage doors. We care about your roof. So we look at things from a different way. And it's also important to know a couple of the words that we use as roofing companies or as roofing salesmen. We use words like eave and rake and ridge and valley. Those are all parts of a roof. So real quickly, I'm going to go over what some of those parts are because when we fill out our estimate form, you're going to need to know what those are. And you'll notice there's some spots here for you to write down the measurements where it says roof area. It also says eave, rake, and ridge. Now eave is easy because on most people's houses, the eave is the part where the gutter goes. Everybody knows what a gutter does when the rain comes down the roof and then it goes in the gutter and then you don't have to have it land on your flowers and stuff. So the eave is this part right here. And then there's a little one here. So that's an example of where the eave is. So it's important as a roofing estimator that we measure those things. The other dimension that you have on there is called rake. The rake is the peak part. So anything that goes up like this is called a rake. So we have a big one here and a small one. And then above the garage door there's a rake. So when we measure a roof, those are the first two things we always measure. We always measure the eave and the rake. It's a lot like if we were going to measure this room for carpet, we would need to measure this wall, and measure that wall, and measure that wall. It's the same thing except for it's a roof. Other things that are important are the ridge. The ridge is where the roof meets at a peak. So this would be the ridge. And there's also a ridge above the garage door. Does everybody understand that? Yes? So real quick, what is this part called?
Eave.
Good. And this?
Ridge.
Excellent. What is this called?
Ridge.
Perfect. Now you can sell a roof. But when we look at roofs, we look at them differently. This is that same house, but it's from an airplane's view, which is more helpful when we talk about having to measure things. So it looks a lot different now, doesn't it? I mean, we're used to looking at a house like this. This is the same house. So you can see What's this long gutter in the back? What part is that called again?
Eave.
Excellent. And this part in the middle?
Ridge.
Ridge. Good job. For example, this is a city block. This is that exact same house. But this is the whole block. These are all the neighbors, and you can see people have fences and sheds, and where your driveway is. So as a roofer, this is how we kind of see everything. Not only do we sell roofing for homes, but we do it for things like bowling alleys and a Walmart store and stuff like that, where the roofs are huge and we have to measure huge distances. That's all surface area. So we take that same house that we were looking at. Now this is exactly looking at it top down. So if you were standing directly above the roof and looking straight down at it, we call this a bird's eye view. So this is the bird's eye view of that same house. When I look at this roof, I see all of the things that I have to measure. That's what I have to measure. Everything that's yellow. So what we usually have to do then is get on a ladder, grab a tape measure, and climb up on the roof. And we have to measure all of these measurements. And then when we're done doing that, we have to do all the math and add it all together. So when we take away all of the pictures and the landscaping in the driveway, and you'll notice that this picture is on the back of your sheet. So when I get to a house, I usually have a piece of graph paper. Does everybody know what graph paper is?
Yeah.
I usually have a piece of graph paper, and then I have to draw the roof. Except I'm standing in the driveway, so I have to kind of, solve the problem of how does it look. And sometimes I'll get up on the roof, and I'll measure things like that, and I'll start to draw it. And then I'll show people a picture of their house, and they'll say, oh, wow, yeah, I never looked at my house that way. But this is a picture of that same house. So let's get the measurements of it. First, I said we're going to measure the eave. So, for eave measurements, now, if you all flip to your picture, we're going to write these numbers on our picture. So let's pretend you guys drew that house. Now we're going to pretend that you're going to write all those measurements down. But instead of you climbing up on the ladder and measuring it, I'll do it, and I'll just tell you what it is. This long one in the back of the house was 60. So if we write on our sheets, right where it was, we can write 60. Now I'm just going to kind of keep moving here. This little one down here was 12. And then this one's 21. And then we have a 9-foot piece right here. Remember, this was the driveway, and this was that little piece over on the side. So as a roofer, we have to measure all those little tiny pieces. And then 5 feet was this little one. Now that's all the eave measurements. So we have a total of 5. Now in a little bit, we're going to add all those up. So if you take where you wrote down all the eave measurements, and then it says eave, and then there's all those lines, you can add those all up. So you can write 60 and 21 and 9 and 5 and 12. And you can list them all. Very good, just like that. And then when we're done with the eave measurements, we're going to do the rake measurements. Now everybody remembers what the rake is, right? Is the rake this part or this part? The side part? Correct. It's where the peak is. Now you don't see a peak when you look at it like this, but remember this was the driveway and this was the peak because the roof kind of came out like this. There was a basketball hoop right here. Okay? Ooh. So the rake measurements. So this front one, and they're usually the same on both sides because it's the same going up and down. So we would call it 16 feet for both of these. We'd call it 20 on both of those over there. And now this one was longer, and then there was that little short piece, if you remember. So that one was only 4. And then way on this side, both of these long ones were 24. So we have to measure all of those so we can figure out what the surface area is. And then the ridge measurements, again, was the piece above the garage, and then the 2 that went along the top of the house. And the one over there was 12. Now remember, this measurement right here on this eave was also 12. That's because this and this is the same length. And then remember this, how long was this one? Does everybody remember?
60.
60, right. So if this one was 60, and I measured this one at 12, we should know how much this is, right? Because the house is probably square. So 60 minus 12, yes?
48.
48, good job. Luke? Here, Luke. Here's a pen for you. There you go. Right, so this one is 48. So when you get good at doing this, you don't have to get up on the roof and measure everything. You just have to measure a few of the important things and you know what they all are. Like if I know that this and this is the same thing, I only have to measure one side, otherwise I could be up there all day. And it's dangerous to be on a roof, so we want to get up there, get it measured, and get down right away so we can start doing all of our math. So we had those two ridges, but this one I'd have to measure because there was nothing that told me what this was. So that one I would measure, and it was 17. So we have all of our ridge measurements, so we can list those all on our sheet. So now when we find the surface area, now we have all of our numbers, just like that. So this is how my sheet would look. All the numbers are filled out. Now I have to think, what is the best way to find the area of this? Because it's not easy. So what's a shape that's easy to find the area of? Brian?
Square.
A square. So, or a rectangle. Same thing. We want, because then you're just taking one number times one number, and then you can get the answer. So I look at this, and when I look at it, I see 3 squares. This is what I see. I see that section over there. I see the main part of the house. And then this little part that sticks out, I measure that too. So really I have 3 rectangles here. This is so small I can kind of just forget about it. It'll all work out. But I have 3 main sections of the roof. So to calculate the surface area, let's say of the orange section. How would we do that? What?
40 and 24.
Close. Close.
40 plus 44.
40 times 12. So that would give us 40 times 12 is 480. And then to do the green section. Now that one's a little trickier because we don't want to use 60 because we already used 12 of it here. So to calculate the area of the green section, what would we do? Of the green section. Right?
60 minus 12.
That would, yes, and then 60 minus 12 we figured out before was 48. So one side of our square is 48. And then what's this size of our square? 24 is half of it. And then we'd have to do the other half, which would be 48. So the area of the green section is 48, because that's what we had for the ridge. And then 48 was the length. So that's a big section. So for this one, we come up with 230 square feet. So that's a pretty large section. That's most of the roof. And then there's that little section in the front, which we would figure out by doing this little 5-foot piece and then 32 feet on the other side. So that's only 160. So for me, the next thing I would do, once I get the areas of all my 3 sections, is I would figure out the surface area. So I would add 480, there we go, 480, 2300, 160 equals 2944. Well, it makes things easier if we round up. So we would round that up to the closest hundred. So we would call that 30 hundredths, or 3,000. And in roofing, we talk about things in hundreds. And we call those squares. We call it a square. A lot of times roofers will say, oh, the house was 20 squares. That means it was 20 hundredths, or 2,000. So we're going to call this roof 30 squares. The other thing we have to measure is the perimeter metal. Now, on a roof, we have to put, not only do we put shingles on the whole roof, but we have to put metal on the whole edge, all the way around. So that's easy to figure out because we just have to add the 2 measurements together. What 2 things do we have to add together?
The orange and the
What was this part of the roof called?
ridge.
The rake. And then this one was the eave. So we just have to add the eave and the rake together. So on this roof, I'm going to save you from doing all the adding on the back of your sheet, but if you flip it over now, you can start to fill out the actual form where you're going to figure out how much this roof is going to cost. So the roof area, we figured out to be 30, so we can write 30. This is on the top left corner of the page. And then the next thing is, what was it? Eave, correct. And the eave is 107, and the rake is 148. And then the last dimension was the ridge, which was the 12, the 48, and the 17. And that's 77 total. Now that's once we're all done getting our numbers together, we have everything we need. Now we have to start figuring out how much things are going to cost. So to do that, here's that sheet. Everybody's looking at this, right? We have this right below all of our measurements. Now here's where it helps to be able to do a little quick thinking. Now, everybody is familiar with what shingles are, right? They're the things that go on your roof that stop the water from coming in the house. Well, when you buy shingles, you buy them in a package. And they sell them so that 3 packages of shingles covers 1 square. Does everybody understand that? So if you have 3 packages that covers 1 square, how many packages do we need to cover 30 square? There it is, 90. So if we have 30 bundles times 3 bundles per package, and then we get a total of 90 bundles. So we can write 90 on there, right where it says how many shingles we're going to buy. Now we know how many shingles to order for this project. And then we do the math times 40 bundles, that's $3,600. That's where most of the money goes when you do a roofing project, is buying the stuff, buying the shingles that go on the roof. So felt, now that's the thing that goes under the shingles. Well, this one's a little bit different because now we get 3 squares, or 300 square feet out of 1 roll. So if we need 30 squares, and it takes 3 squares in a roll, that would be how many rolls? Okay?
10.
10 it is. Here, I have a pen for you then too. Pass that to Jake. There you go. Thank you. So, 3 squares per roll, 10 rolls will give us 30 squares, which is how big our roof was. $20 per roll, everybody can do that math, right? Shout it out. $200 for felt, absolutely. Nails. Now remember, our roof is 30 squares big. It takes nails to do it. You get 5 squares out of a bucket. So how many buckets of nails are we going to need? Luke? We have 30 squares on the roof.
150.
Nope. We're going to get 5 squares out of 1 bucket. So a quick way to do that would, go ahead. If we divide 30 by 5, what do we come up with? Go ahead.
6.
6 it is, correct. And then at $15 per bucket, we're going to spend $90 on nails. Now, this one's tricky. On the edge of the roof, so on the eave, we have to put down something that's called starter strip, and we get 50 feet of that in a pack. So how many packs of starter strip are we going to need for this roof? Go ahead.
1,500.
No. Do we remember how long our eave was? Is it Lacey? How long is our eave on the roof? 107. And if we get 50 feet out of a pack of starter strip, how many packs do we need to do 107 feet? There's going to be extra. So you just have, go ahead, Emily. Close. 4 would give us 200 feet. Bear fan. 3, correct. 3 gets us 150 feet. I like the bears too. All right, so again, 3 packs, $10 a pack, is going to get you how much?
30.
30 bucks, you got it. And then the metal edge. Now, we need 10-foot pieces, so how much was our eave metal and our rake metal combined? And we need to know how many 10-foot pieces we need. I don't even remember the answer to that one. What did we have? Eve was 107. You have a guess?
255.
255. It only comes in 10-foot pieces, so how many pieces will we need to cover 255 feet?
9.
Nope, 9 would only give us 90 feet. Luke?
26.
26. Here, pen. You're welcome. So, $4 per piece, 26 pieces is $104 in metal. Now, this is for the ridge. What was our number for ridge? Luke?
77.
77, right. And if we get 33 feet out of a pack, how many packs do we need? What?
3.
Correct, because 3 is going to give us how many feet? 99, right. And all we need is 77, but 2 packs isn't enough because that would only be 66. At $25, at 3 times 25 is?
75.
You got it. So if we add up all of our materials, we're spending $4,099 on that roof. Now, figuring out the labor or what we pay the workers is easier to do because all we need to worry about is the squares. So again, there's 30 squares. They get paid to tear off your old roof. $30 times $30, or $30 times 30 squares is 900, right? And they get paid 50, these are all pretend numbers by the way, but they get paid 50 per square to do 30 squares, which would be 1,500. So this is all the money that we would spend to actually do the work, and this is the money that we would spend to buy the material. Does everybody understand what the difference between that is? Kind of like when you go to get your car fixed, you have to pay the mechanic to fix it, but then you also have to pay for the pieces that he's going to replace. This is the same thing. These are the pieces, and this is for the guy who's going to nail all the stuff on the roof. So the total, does anybody know what the total of this project would be then? Go ahead, shout out.
6,499. Yeah, 6,000.
Correct, $6,499. Does anybody have any questions? Because now you can all come with me to work and we can all figure out how to do a roof. I don't know how much time we have, but I can field questions for as long as you'd like.
Oh, we've had as much time as you would like. Well, they probably want to leave at 3:30.
I have an appointment to measure a roof at 5 o'clock, so I have 2.5 hours.
Sounds good. Boys and girls, do you have some questions? I think
Yes,
you're
Jaden.
thinking some good ones.
What was the number again?
For the total number,
Yeah. 6,400.
6,499. Yes, Ryan?
How many roofs do you usually do a day?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, a roof is done by a group of people. We call them a crew. So if you worked for us and you nailed shingles on a roof, you would be part of a crew. Sounds cool, doesn't it? Well, your crew would have 3 or 4 people on it. And that crew, for example, this roof, they would be able to tear the whole roof off and replace it in about 2 days. So most roofs are done in about 2 days with the crew. Now, there are things that could make the project go slower. You know, let's say it's really rainy out or all of a sudden it gets cold or something. But most roofs take 2 days. And for example, our company has about 4 crews. So if we have 4 crews and they get half a job done in a day, we probably as a company get about 2 roofs done every day. So in a week with 5 days, we're probably getting about 10 jobs done. That's a lot. I mean, that's a whole lot of roofs, a whole lot of shingles going on and off. Yes, Aaliyah, Alberts.
How many roofs do you measure a day?
Oh, great question. Well, in the busy time of year, and this is not the busy time of year. You know the busy times of year because I leave early and I don't come home till really late. Sometimes we get, you know, it takes a good hour to 2 hours to measure a roof and to talk to the people. So, you know, in the busy time, we can do 4 or 5 measures a day, which is good. Now, we don't sell every single one of them. That's part of being a salesman. You have to make sure that you're doing what the people need and that all the numbers work out and that they're happy with the price. You know, but if we sell half of them, that's really good. So we, in the busy time of year, this time of year with it being cold, I probably only measure about 2 roofs a week. So this is a good, I'm like a teacher except for I don't have the summer off. I have the winter off. So that's a nice benefit to my job. Yes, Callie? I would imagine that bricklayers probably do almost the same thing, except for instead of looking at things down, they look at things, you know, kind of on the wall. Same. I have a friend who works for a siding company, so they put siding up, which is probably a lot like brick. So it's very much the same thing. What was that?
That's where Dad works.
You want to just take one of these and pass them around?
He does a lot. He does mostly roofing.
Yeah. Yep. Question? Yes.
Do they like pick all of the stuff that they want on there first before the first day or the second day? When you if you're
Okay. Good. That's a great question. It's part of my job not only to measure things, but it's also my job to show them colors and make sure that they like the different options. Sometimes they get to pick things, you know, whether we're going to put something here or there. But the biggest question that everybody has is color. Everybody gets to pick a color, whether they want a green roof or a red roof or a brown roof or a gray roof or whichever they'd like. But we answer those questions before the project even starts because we need to know what color they want before we even take the stuff to their house. So usually I figure that out right away. Aaliyah? Aaliyah? Maybe every time you raise your hand I should just just go like that. That's you raising your hand when you were 1.
Okay.
Wearing a cape. That's a cape. All right, what did you need?
Okay. You know, in March when you go do those things that you in the paper because of?
Yes.
What are those called? Or what,
Home shows.
What are they?
As a company, and a lot of companies do it, bricklayers would do it, or masons would do it, landscapers do it. People who sell things a lot of times will have what's called a home show, where customers, let's say you just bought a house and you want to fix it up, instead of calling all a bunch of companies and having them come to your house, you could just go to one place and meet all of them. So we go to a place like the Brown County Arena or something like that, where we all set up a little booth and we talk about what we do. And that's a home show. And you know that those are all weekend long, and I stand there and talk to people all day.
Is that what I came to help you set up for? That
Yes.
kind of dress?
Yep, we have to put up pictures and booths and displays and all sorts of stuff, because then we stand there and we talk about roofing all day long till we lose our voice. Yes?
Is your job hard?
Is my job hard? I would say no. It probably would be if I didn't enjoy it. But because I have fun, and you know what? I like math, so that makes my job a little easier. I tell you, if I didn't like math, my job would be really hard.
I don't like that.
Well,
I do. Boring.
math is probably in almost everything that you're going to do. So being good at, I tell my girls this all the time, being good at math is one of those things that's really important to work on and get good at, because almost everything you're going to do is going to involve math. Computers, measuring, anything like that, for sure. I mean, you couldn't even go to school to be a baker and not be good at math. So math is everywhere. Yes, Bear fan. I don't see your name tag, so we'll just go with Bear fan. Xavier. All right, I like Bear fan better.
What happens when you're putting the shingles off the roof and there's like a chimney?
And there's a chimney. Well, we use certain products that the roofing part goes up against where the chimney is, and some chimneys are brick, and some chimneys are siding, and some are wood, and then there's special things that we have to put around it to make sure that it doesn't leak. Another thing that our company does, and I don't know if I can go all the way back, one of the things that our company does is we also do a lot of repair work. So somebody will call us sometimes because they don't need a roof, but because they need, let's say their roof is new, but they have a leak. Well, that means somebody did something wrong. And one of the things that a lot of people will do wrong is around a chimney. So we get called to repair chimneys. We get called to repair chimneys all the time. Now, some of these people work in a roofing crew, but some of the guys just drive around in some of these bigger trucks with just all sorts of tools, and they're ready to fix roofing problems. So we have guys that work that do repairs and do fixes, and then we have guys that just tear off the whole thing and put on a whole new one. So, yes, Aaliyah.
Okay. Say someone was in the middle of doing a roof thing, but there was something that couldn't get wet with it. Building it and then it rains.
That's a good question. Customers ask us that question all the time. They say, well, what if you're starting our roof and then it starts to rain? Well, remember one of the things we figured out on our roof form was felt. Remember where it says felt? Felt goes on really fast. So as soon as we tear shingles off the roof, boom, we put felt on. That way, if we have to leave because it's raining or because it's nighttime, then there's felt on the roof. And that can keep the rain and the wind out and everything. Now, you wouldn't just leave felt on your roof because after about a month it would fall apart and blow away. But it's good overnight or for a couple days. And a lot of times if you're driving down the highway or there's a house in your neighborhood that's getting a new roof, you'll see them if you look. They'll tear all the roof off, and then you'll see all the wood, and then you'll see a whole bunch of felt that goes on. It goes on in stripes. So then that'll go on the roof, and then a lot slower they'll put all the shingles on, because every shingle's got to be nailed. Yes.
What does felt look like?
It's available in a lot of different looks, but the most common one is it's black and it's a roll, and it's about this tall, about this big around, and a lot of times you'll see it sitting on a roof before a roof job goes. But what they do is they staple it on and then they unroll it, And then all they got to do is staple it in a few spots, and then the roof won't leak in case it rains. What?
About that homing thing?
About the what?
That homing thing, is that what you said?
The home shows? Yes.
How many different companies do you meet?
Oh, lots. We're going to be, this weekend, there's a home show that we're going to be doing in Oshkosh, and that one will have about 200 different companies there, so people can go to it. And then the weekend after that, we have one that's in Green Bay. So that one will even have more because that one's in Shopko Hall and in the arena, and that one probably has 450 vendors in it. But they're not all roofers. There will probably be 10 roofers there, but then there'll be 10 guys that sell windows and 10 guys that do siding and 10 guys that put bushes in, all sorts of stuff.
Just answered my second question.
Very good. Yes.
When I was really little and you sent me the bear with a bunch where
Yes.
did you go and what did you do there?
Oh, I went to Arkansas.
Yes.
We helped start a company in Arkansas. There was an employee who worked there, and we helped start a roofing company in Arkansas. So I went down there during the winter because here it's cold and nobody buys roofs in the winter. So I went down there in December and January, and I helped them because in Arkansas in December and January it's 60 degrees outside. So I was driving around with a short sleeve shirt on with my windows rolled down. So that was pretty nice. Yes.
How hard is it to do it on a lawn?
It's not really any different, and that's what's nice about roofing is because if the house is log or brick or stone or made out of jello, it doesn't matter because the roof is still the same. So it's not really any different to do. We actually just did a job on a log home that I sold that was in New London, and it's a beautiful roof. A lot of log homes have green roofs where it looks, because the wood is brown and then they put green on the roof and it's really pretty. Yes?
How many different kinds of shingles do you have? Colors do you have?
I would say hundreds.
Maybe
Yeah.
every single color?
No, I can name a lot of the popular colors, and I can name a lot of the bigger companies, but there are 10 companies, and each company has 50 different colors. It's my job, part of my job, is to figure out what people need and what they like, and what would work good for them. Some roofs only last a few years, and some roofs last forever. So when I go to somebody's house, I have to figure out which kind they need and which one works best. Okay? Next, I got time for 2 more questions. Yes?
How high can you have, how many stories can there be for you to build a roof?
Good question. If we were all driving down the highway in Appleton, I could point out the window to a building that's kind of off in the distance but not too far. If you're heading south, so if you're heading away from us, it's on your left-hand side, and I think it's about 12 or 15 stories, and it's square, and it goes up, and then it's got an orange-colored roof like this. Some of you guys will probably see it the next time you drive south. It's on your left-hand side. It's right in the middle of Appleton, just when you get past the mall. The mall will be on your right. This building's on your left, probably about another mile down, and it's really tall, and we put the roof on that. And I look at it, and I think there's no way I could have got up there. But that's what we have all these fancy cranes for, and that's a huge crane. So, and this is the end of a machine that actually delivers material up. So it's pretty neat. Not a lot of companies can do that. So that's one of the things that makes us a little bit different is that we can go really high. Yes.
Is felt like plastic or something?
It's actually made out of paper. It's made out of paper and it has oil on it. It's actually got asphalt in it, which is made out of oil. It's actually made out of the same kind of stuff that they put on the roads when they're black, so they don't break down over time.
I have a question.
All right.
Connecting to-
No, we're done. We're done.
You shouldn't have told them 5 o'clock.
Thank you all very much. All right. Now, here's a little card about my business. You can take it home. You can throw it away. You can do whatever you want with it. I just figured since I was here, if any of you had any more questions, it also has my email address on there. So if you or your parents have any other questions about roofing, you can just send me an email and it goes right to my phone. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, you want to
if they're sitting. All right, boys and girls, I know that was a very fun, nice math break, but we do have a math lesson we need to do today.